Welcome back. Well, Jonathan Adler is here today with Concerned Citizens, and he's got a great guest that'll be at their meeting next week, which is Tuesday, June 4th, 7 o'clock at Clubhouse 7. And this is, well, someone that your family has a personal connection with, right? So tell us about this, Sanford Lakoff.
Well, it's
really interesting.
It's amazing.
Yeah.
He has a personal connection going way back with both Concerned Citizens, the host club, back to 2004, when he did our first election issues talk. He's the founding chair of the Department of Political Science, UC San Diego, so he's an academic. So his talks at Concerned Citizens have been both political and nonpartisan and academic. Now, personally, I go back with him to when I was a sophomore in college in the late 50s, and he was my honors tutor and a resident assistant that kept us in line in the house where we lived. Wow. And then my parents, my mom and dad, moved to La Jolla, became very close friends with him. He became a close family friend, was at all of my mom's and dad's birthday parties, and sadly he spoke at both of their funerals and memorial services. So we have that personal connection. And he has been so, the reason for that is that he's been so generous in giving of himself to the community and coming and doing talks, which he does to this very day. My invitation to him a few months ago, he said, well, fortunately you invited me for a good day because I'm talking in, my mom and dad's retirement community on these other days. So to this very day, he goes out and gives talks on
that's a great history you have with him. That is really neat. Yeah, that is fantastic. So he is he a current professor, or is he kind of an emeritus at San Diego?
He is an emeritus. He's the Edward A. Dixon Professor Emeritus. But he teaches to this day, and he gets awards to this day, and he just got an award for contribution to scholarship and teaching during retirement from the whole big UC system. Yeah, that's remarkable. The fact that you've been associated with him all these years and Concerned Citizens, and his topic this time is Americanism, and it's one of those topics we're just talking about that people hear that, and there's probably 1,000 different viewpoints on that. What's Americanism to you? What's to you? And is this kind of what he's going to bring together, like looking at it at different angles? Well, his topic is called Americanism from Jefferson to Trump. And one person I gave that.
Why not Washington to Trump? I'm just curious.
I suppose it could have been, but Jefferson was more involved with the content of the Federalist Papers and the Constitution. But I could have.
I'm just interested. I thought maybe
it could have been John Adams.
Yeah, it could be John, as well. It could be any one of them, right? But I think this is a great topic because you can look at it. It's from all different angles. And is he going to give a talk and then kind of back and forth with people
there's always Q&A and discussion
I think
after
that's great.
this. But what's interesting about that is that somebody asked me, well, is he going to be political about this? Is he going to talk about politics and candidates? So I emailed him, and his response was that he says, my talk will deal with American values, not candidates or policies. So when you think about values, they're kind of the overriding basic principles out of which issues and policies come, bills and legislation, all that. So he's looking at the very basics. He hasn't laid that out in our communication, but I've sort of thinking about it. It's pretty obvious that at the start of our country, the basic American values were things like independence, the frontier, self-sufficiency, tolerance, religious tolerance, political and religious tolerance, and then only later equality and equal opportunity as non-property owners became included, and then African Americans, former slaves, and only 100 years ago, women. Only 100 years ago. So the equality principle, education, inclusion, You remember de Tocqueville, the French reporter, journalist, political philosopher who toured the U.S. in the 1840s and wrote about it in Democracy for America. So he observed all of these civic intertwinements and civic groups and mutual support. So that's, I suppose, another American value.
Yeah, I think that's interesting. In fact, that's another article I was telling Jonathan. I get a magazine called Trend and Tradition that's published by Colonial Williamsburg. And I read an article about that gentleman when he came to America, and it was interesting, you know, when he toured it and all, and very, very neat. Yeah, I think this is going to be just a wonderful guest that you have here, and a great topic, you know, because it brings together everyone, but everyone looks at it a little bit differently, and you know, I think that's good. Yeah.
You know, in recent years, the opposite of Americanism, quote, anti-Americanism, has become part of unfortunately, part of the political dialogue.
Right, right.
And that didn't just start with Joe McCarthy and anti-communism. I mean, it kind of goes back to the late 1800s, the early 1900s, the radical anarchism, labor movement, syndicalism, the Red Scare of the early decades, the conflict, anti-socialism then. Yeah. So, you know, you have Americanism and anti-Americanism, and it's sort of a conflict, you know, between those.
Right.
And it's interesting to think how the economic part, capitalism, which, of course, you know, free enterprise was always a basic American value, and capitalism became very closely associated with Americanism.
Right, right, yes.
And, you know, to the exclusion of things that challenged capitalism.
Right, right, yeah. It's very interesting, and you know, like I said, I appreciate all that just because of all the articles that I read in that magazine, and that looks at all of what you just talked about. So this is going to be a fantastic guest, and anybody can show up. Am I right? Do you have to RSVP?
You don't have to RSVP. It's in Clubhouse 7, which is open to all guests. We ask for a $3 donation. Members free, of course. Yeah. And he has drawn big, enthusiastic audiences as the years go on. This will be his 5th time back to Concerned Citizens.
Right.
And I believe he's spoken to other clubs as well over the years.
Yeah. Well, very good. And again, this is next week, June already. Wow. June 4th, 7 p.m. at Clubhouse 7. The doors open at 6:30. I think this is going to be, you know, a fascinating speaker, and then questions afterwards. And you know, everyone, it doesn't matter what side you are on. I think this is a subject that can captivate everyone. So I think it's going to be excellent.
Well, I hope so. And he's a, you know, brilliant analyst and academic, and will give us lots of food for thought.
Yes.
And the role that Americanism plays in the current, you know, highly polarized political
and maybe he'll talk about Jonathan when Jonathan was back in college.
I'm sure he will.
He'll give a little backstory there. Take care. All right, we'll be right back.
I hope.